a brand new dawning as the passion
Welcome
start
back
to
to Good Morning
rise.
Tobago on Tobago
The
Update for
energy
viewers. We
fill
are
the
unfortunately still
skies.
having some technical difficulties in getting Mr. Ramsamooj on with us. And but yes, he was coming on to just to speak to us a little bit about the local government elections. Like I said, they're heating up in Trinidad. The race is quite tight. There's quite a number of marginal seats right now in Trinidad, and a lot of alliances happening as well. We've seen the labor union joining up with the UNC together with the NTA that's been led by Mr. Gary Griffiths, as well as Jack Warner back on the scene with the UNC. Just a lot of interesting things coming out. And we saw that also, the PDP being led by Mr. Watson Duke has joined forces with Fuad Baka. Okay, so we do have Mr. Derek Ramsamooj on with us. Mr. Ramsamooj, good morning, and hopefully we can hear you now.
Good, good, good morning, Candace. How are you? Are you hearing me
I'm
properly?
hearing you loud and clear, and it's wonderful to hear you this morning. Now, I just want to get straight into it and just your perspectives on, the alliances that the trade unions are making with the UNC in Trinidad. And I mean, the fact that you do not think that that's going to make an impact on how the votes will go.
Let's be clear. These are more cosmetic political activities as opposed to any activity that has any political depth in it. Depth in it. If you look, let's deal with the alliances first. We all are mystified by the alliance of the NAR that was in 1986 and the other alliances that came that put the UNC in government. Let's understand that the birthplace of the present coalition partners are all UNC based to start with. So it's whether it's UNC blue, UNC yellow, or UNC green, the common denominator is that of the UNC, as opposed to the political accommodation that was the NAR, which comprised of the DAC had a political identity, the ULF, and the ONR. So the configuration then and the ethos then is completely different from political opportunism that we see at this point in time.
And then just taking a cursory glance at what's happening on the scene in Trinidad right now, what is your view on how the elections would go?
That's a function of voter turnout. Historically, we would normally get between 35 to 38% voter turnout. So that is going to decide voter turnout, and the election day machinery for the respective parties will decide who is actually going to be successful or not. There are one or two marginal electoral districts within the role of the existing municipal and regional corporations. So it's going to be a hard fought ground campaign in the coming days. You mentioned the labor arrangements. Again, we must understand society has evolved, and the role that labor trade unions played historically from the 1897, from the times of Cipriani, to that of Butler, to also that of Bastille Pandey, has greatly changed. So there is a diminishing role of labor unions' participation in mainstream politics. Let's not get confused between the trade union as an institution and actors of the trade union who see political opportunity for their personal political involvement.
And then what about just the people on the ground, the voters themselves? Because we know the local government election has traditionally seen a very low voter turnout, probably about 20, just over 20%, between 20 and 25% in recent times. Do you think that any of that is changing? Do you think that all the campaigns, what is being said on the platforms, what is being said on the ground, is any of that changing the way that the voting is going to happen, or even the voter, more specifically, the voter turnout itself?
We must understand the dynamics of the different constituencies and the different communities. In certain constituencies or certain communities, people may be influenced by the different types of campaigns. So let's look at the campaigns. The UNC is basically trying to put together a national campaign, believing it's a national governmental campaign. That is not the case. The PNM is looking at the local government reform element. After the local government elections, central government still remains under the control of the PNM. So the UNC is attempting to use the local government, one, to ensure its leader remains intact, two, prepare the UNC or all the different incarnations of the UNC to portray a political accommodation to try to turn the political tide for the general elections. However, within the PNM strategy, they want to focus on the local government reform and that of empowering the different communities. So there are two different strategies applied. One, focusing on the local government election. Two, using the local government election to create a momentum that they're hoping can bring a benefit in time for the general elections.
And there's been quite a lot of talk about local government reform and, making it in such a way that it has a similar structure to what the THA is and so on. But are people on the ground understanding that and understanding what they are voting for in this election?
This election has confused many persons in the electorate. They have yet to understand A, what local government is about, two, what this election is about in terms of not beyond the reform, how it's going to benefit themselves. The other challenge is that the UNC base is believing that this is about a general election momentum. So both leaders have positioned the message differently. And you may not be surprised if the voter turnout remains what we expected to be the normal status quo. The campaign has not really been inspiring. The campaign has shown a level of savagery and brutality that is unnecessary at this point in time.
I mean, and we had a complaint even from the UTP political leader, Nkosi Phillips, who said that, they are just doing a very small campaign. They're only contesting one seat, one electoral district in this whole thing. But, they made a comment that, similar to what you just said, that the political leaders are the ones speaking very publicly about this elections, and you're not actually hearing from the candidates themselves. So when this is not, and it's not even a general election, this is about electing candidates within your electoral district. What are your views on that as to the messaging coming out of the political platform?
One of the elements of this campaign is the media. The media sees political campaigns as an opportunity to earn revenue. That's the reality. And therefore, the media also plays a role in hyping the political rhetoric that is hostile in nature, as opposed to helping focus on the issues. We also must look at the other stakeholders in our society, whether it's the business community, whether it's the NGOs, whether it's the trade union base. They also have been playing a very minimalistic role in guiding local government reform. And therein lies an examination post local government elections of the whole notion of campaign finance and the notion of whether you can control the expenditure to the media, thereby determining a different type of political narrative based on substance as opposed on 30-second ads.
That's very interesting. What about in terms of, just looking at the individual campaigns itself? The UNC is heavily focused on the issue of crime because, of course, crime is our number one social issue that we are facing, well, especially in Trinidad, maybe not quite as much in Tobago, but definitely in Trinidad. And they focus their campaign on addressing crime. However, a lot of the stuff that they've been talking about, it's changes to be made at the parliament level, but not necessarily at the local government level.
I agree with you that the UNC's campaign has not been structured towards the local government issues. That is going to be of great significance. As we're speaking about Tobago, for example, Tobago's politics is all local politics at certain levels. And the Tobago economy is fundamental to the quality of life of people who live and register in businesses in Tobago. So, perceptions such as the environment, perceptions such as the society benefit from the political structures, as well as public procurement and governance, those are major issues that Tobago will look at in their THA elections. However, when you look at the corporations, the 14 corporations, there is no such discussion occurring of how do you improve the quality of life of the people of Mayaro or the people of Toko or the people in Diego Martin. So there is a lack of detailed political discussion because of the focus of the leaders as opposed to the discussion on the ground.
Now, can local government make any difference in the crime situation? Is there any, as it is right now, or even moving towards the new the new municipal legislation? Could there be any impact? Could there be any difference made at that level into the crime statistics that we are seeing right now?
There are certain political perceptions where certain communities, they say, are where you're going to have criminality coming from. So that is one. Two, there are certain sectors that they say finance the levels of criminality in our society. Two. Therefore, it's going to be critical if we improve the quality of life of these communities, as well as ensure that we can monitor the levels of criminality or the sources of criminality at these community levels. So if you look at the United Kingdom, for example, or the United States, their first fundamental objective of all local government authorities is that of keeping communities safe, creating employment in communities, creating better infrastructure in communities, of dealing with the hotspots, of giving more authority to the local policing as well as the local healthcare services. So you have better government services at the community level. We have to stop this nonsense of believing the political rhetoric of people who are basically coming over wanting to be a leader. But all they are is a leader of a political tribe that they historically trying to hold on so as to keep their revenue in their pockets. We need to have a look at how we build the communities and build the governance, improve our local government, and by extension, improve the governance of our society. The media has played too much strong of a role in actually propagating the political nonsense of fake leaders.
That's it. That's certainly very interesting. As it relates to, just some of the issues, even with property tax and so on, we're hearing conversations about that coming from the PNM because the same property tax is essential to making this whole local government reform work. Um, Based on the arguments that they put forward, what are your views on that?
I believe that if people wish to have a better quality life at their community level, if we want our pensioners to walk the streets safely, if we wish to protect our men and women, if we want to improve the quality of life of small businesses, we must be able to get not just more resources, but a better implementation of these resources. Everything in our communities is relatively local. How we feel safe, where we shop, where we go. So, in any developing society, a state must be able to raise more revenue and redistribute the revenue. We cannot be operating under an old colonial system.
Hmm.
The evolution of our electorate requires new quality of public services that must be funded. So, however you want to call it, more revenue must be derived to enhance the quality of life. And all the major individuals in our society who travel elsewhere look at services in other foreign communities and need to ask themselves, how is that funded?
Interesting. And when it comes to some of the smaller parties in the election, I'm talking here about the PDP or the PEP and so on. Are those parties going to make an impact? Does it look like they're going to make an impact in on Monday's election?
At the national level, they will be politically irrelevant. However, in certain electoral districts, they may be good to attract 50 to 100 votes that may influence whether the PNM or the UNC win those seats. So, for example, I get two areas or three areas. One would be in the San Fernando Corporation. Those smaller parties may basically prevent one of the larger dominant parties to emerge victorious or be the balance of power when it comes to attracting the undecided voter. In places like San Fernando, in one or two places like St. Sipario, certainly the San Grande Corporation as well, and maybe one or two of the electoral districts in the Tanapuna Piaco Corporation.
Hmm. And in Port of Spain, that's where Watson Duke is on the ground and, you know,
Poli- Politically
trying.
irrelevant. Politically irrelevant.
All right. I want to thank you so much, Mr. Ramsamooj, for giving us such a wonderful perspective on what's happening on the ground there in Trinidad and some of the issues coming out of the campaign for the local government elections. We here at Tobago are definitely looking on. We have about what's going to be happening, and yeah, we hope to see you again as to give us an analysis even after the elections are over, and then we move towards general elections in 2025. All right. So
Thank you for the opportunity. Anytime you wish.
thank you so much. All right, viewers, so that's how we're going to have to wrap our show this morning. But before I go, I got to let you know. First of all, Ms. Tashia, Secretary of Tourism, Culture and Transportation, Tashia Boris, is going to be on full disclosure tonight. So you're going to want to look forward for that. And interestingly enough, well, we are looking on Sunday to see what's going to be happening with the launch of the TPP party. So viewers, tune in tonight for us as the on full disclosure as Sasha Boris discusses taking the Tobago fight on. All right, so thank you again for being on with us, and we will see you again tomorrow.